Hi, welcome to a short video about my new Engage layout, Dawlish Warren. I enjoyed my last project, Little Alla Junction, and I'm sure it entertained visitors to exhibitions as much as it entertained me. But nothing lasts forever, and the time has come to move on. I spent a long time thinking about what to do next. I came very close to choosing Bodmin Road station, which is a great setting for a model, but in the end I decided on Dawlish Warren and a bit of iconic sea wall. As with all my layouts, this project will be DC and I will use open baseboards. Because I use open baseboards, careful planning is extremely important. I use AnyRail for planning my layouts. There are other planning tools such as SCARM, but I get on well with AnyRail. You can download a free package which is limited to 50 pieces of track to get you started. Although I knew what I wanted to build a model of, I still needed to lay down other parameters. For this project I decided to make it for home use with the possibility of taking it to exhibitions. Whereas the size of Little Alla Junction was decided by what would fit in the back of my car, the size of Dawlish Warren has been decided by the size of the room available. It will be 11 foot 6 inches by 3 foot 4 inches. I spent many months researching the project. This involved many days googling the web and also searching through many books for photos of Dawlish Warren. A site visit was also required, no hardship there. Newton Abbot Library was useful. It claims to have the second largest collection of railway books in the UK. This helped to work out what features to include. Eventually I came up with a plan. The model is compromised by the space available, but I found I just about had enough space to keep all the bits that I liked in and leave out some of the less interesting sections. The platforms are scale length, so far as I can work out. On my previous layout I kept to very gentle curves on the scenic section and had very sharp curves in the tunnels. For this layout I decided to make the curves as large as possible, certainly bigger than Pico 4th radius, and make them part of the scenic section. The downside is that the curves are still very much tighter than real life curves, but the big upside is that by having scenic curves I get a scenic run of about 15 foot on an 11 foot 6 spaceboard. If I had gone for hidden tight curves I would only get a maximum of 9 foot 6 inches scenic run on the same board. Also, having larger curves improves running and reliability. So far I'm liking the scenic curves. Once I had a plan that felt right, I printed it out full size, which worked out at 78 pages of A4. I had to cut the edges of all of these and sellotape them together to get a full size plan. I felt this was worthwhile for a number of reasons. First of all, it gives an impression of what the layout will look like. I find this very useful and is a kind of last opportunity to make a go no-go decision before investing in the build. When building an open plan baseboard, the cross members have to be shaped to support the track base, but below track height at other places in order to allow the scenery to flow. The full-size plan is also useful in that it provides the measurements required for cutting baseboard materials. The last thing I did with the full-size plan was to cut out the track base and use it to form a template for cutting the plywood. Once the baseboard was assembled, and even though I had used good quality plywood, I painted it in order to try to seal it and stop it absorbing moisture and moving. I use analog control as it suits my needs. The most important reason for this is that I have 12 storage sidings, but only limited vision of them from the front of the layout. With analog, all I have to do is press the button for the track I want to use, and loco on that track is automatically live as soon as the points change. As the layout is primarily for home use, I built a control panel into the front of the layout. I'll get round to labelling the switches later. As there is a possibility of taking the layout to a few exhibitions, I also built another control panel at the rear of the layout. This rear control panel is also very useful when setting up stock in the storage sidings. I plan to use expanded polystyrene to build the sandstone cliffs. I tried but couldn't get on with the method, so I went back to good old chicken wire covered in plaster strips. I found chicken wire is much easier to bend to the shape I want. The sequence for building the scenery is very straightforward. Put the chicken wire in place, cover it in plaster bandages, then add a layer of filler. I used a brush to make the required marks on the rocks and painted them using a couple of shades of red paint to represent the sandstone cliffs. Up until I started building this layout, I had only scratch built one simple Engage building. I knew this project would require 6 buildings made entirely from scratch. So I made the two station buildings before starting to build the layout, just to make sure that I could actually make them to a reasonable standard. My favourite building so far is the Mount Pleasant Inn, a place where I have enjoyed many a good meal. I have built up sets of stock for 4 periods: 1959, 1963, 1968, and the 1980s. The station didn't change all that much over this period, although the footbridge was demolished at some time in the 1970s. The semaphore signals and signal box remained until the late 1980s, when the station was converted to colour light signalling. The track configuration was also changed. The trailing crossover was moved and became a facing crossover to enable down trains to use the up line along the sea wall. I'm a pretty average modeller, but I do think working semaphores are an important part of running a model railway. In Engage, Dapol make the correct signal post signals, but it is not possible to buy working bracket signals. I needed 4 single post signals and 2 bracket signals, so I purchased some non-working Dapol signals, which I modified to work off servos, and built my own bracket signals. They are somewhat crude, but they look somewhere near and they actually work nicely, so I'm happy. There is a Warley club member who makes exquisite working signals in O, OO and N. These are items of wonder, but I decided I would rather have the satisfaction of building my own. This saved a lot of cash and also provided quicker delivery. They are made from brass rod and use MSE semaphores. The servos that drive the signals are controlled by a Pico smart switch. After a year of building, most of the basic scenery is in place, and the plan is to have the basics completed by the end of this year. I will start work on the all-important details in 2021. Here we see 37207 in Cornish Railways livery. Clay hood wagons were rare in Devon, but they did get as far as Exeter Riverside Yard, so they must have passed through Dawlish Warren. This clay wagon train is being held in the loop so an express can pass. The points are changed for the through lines and the signals are set for the express. I must like that HST, it appears in a lot of these video clips. The bobby resets the signal for the through line, changes the points, and when the line is clear ahead, gives the right of way to Class 37 William Cookworthy. There is a lot of work still to be done on this layout, such as adding people, fences and shrubs, but hopefully it will all be complete by the end of next year. I hope you enjoyed this little presentation. Thank you for watching.